Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Becoming Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Gray, and this is episode 5. It's kind of crazy to think that it's episode 5. I feel like I just started this podcast like yesterday, but here we are, and I'm really happy with how this is going. If nothing else, it's becoming such a good outlet for me to get a lot of my thoughts on paper and out in the open and just like talk to myself in a new way, if that makes sense. I swear by journaling, I swear by therapy, but something about these podcasts have like changed the game for me in a way, if you will. Anyways, I'm recording this the last day of March, March 31st. And tomorrow's April Fool's slash April 1st. Um, and I really, really wanted to make a short episode within the first few days of April and have it released, especially because so much of me and so much of my brand and so much of like everything is around sexual assault awareness. And that is exactly what I'm here to talk about today. So, if you don't know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I truly think of it as a time to bring attention to the realities of sexual violence, and really emphasize supporting survivors and work toward prevention. Um, Essentially, in this episode, I just wanted to talk about what this month means to me and share some thoughts and resources, and then also discuss ways in which we can support other survivors and continue to just take action. And if nothing more, just be aware of this month as a whole and be thinking of some of your friends and family. So, obviously, Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April have a lot of meaning towards me and my brand, like I said, but a little bit deeper meaning just for those who are new here. Um, when I was younger, obviously, I was sexually assaulted by my grandfather, and I thought it was interesting. I was journaling a little bit about what I wanted to write in this episode, and I realized that a lot of things happened in April throughout my life. So, my birthday is April 11th, so that's already like a fun fact. And then my dad's birthday is actually April 18th. So I was born a week before his birthday exactly. So I'm actually going home for his birthday this year, which I'm so, so excited for. Um, Anyways, so besides those two really fun facts, um, I first spoke out about the abuse that I faced on my 15th or 14th birthday, sorry. And so there's a lot of memories and connotations and events that have happened in April for me, both currently and in the past. Another fun fact is that the Corner House Gala, Cheers for Children, is also in April every year. And it is by far my favorite event. If you are interested, go look at tickets at cornerhousemn.org.com. Anyways, go look them up. They're everywhere all over my site. But essentially, I will be going home for that, and my roommate is also coming with me, and it's just honestly such an important time in my life that I take to dedicate my resources, my story, my kinda everything, my brand, all of that really emphasizes in Corner House and this event, and it's truly the best time of the year, and anyways, that's a little backstory about why April also means a lot to me. I wanna preface this by saying that, like, what I've gone through doesn't just mean that, like, April is all sunshine and rainbows. Like, I feel like I wanna also preface by saying that, as you can tell, like, I have a lot of enthusiasm about April. There's also a lot of negative connotation behind it. Obviously, like I said, like, I came out and spoke about my story in April during my 14th birthday. Like, there are a lot of birthdays that I wish I didn't remember, and that remind me of certain events with my abuser and that can be really tough. And I can't remember the last birthday that I didn't cry on my birthday. It's kind of like a monumental thing that just like happens, I guess, for me. I can't always pinpoint why, but it might just be a trauma response. Anyways, the point with saying all this is that April can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. Whatever you might be experiencing, whether it's related to sexual assault awareness or not, every single month can look a lot different. Now, I want to also say that if you have someone in your life who has been a victim of sexual abuse or sexual assault, and this month is something that you want to honor them with, know that every single person has their own way of seeing Sexual Assault Awareness Month and being in Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And for me, it's a great time because obviously I have my birthday. I really, really feel supported and loved around my birthday, especially with the Cheers event and seeing all my family and my friends and feeling loved. But there's also that point where sometimes, yeah, it's really, really tough because I'm really busy. I have a lot of hard emotions with it being my birthday and with those memories of my grandpa coming up. But all this to say, whether you're a supporter or a victim, know that whatever you're feeling this month and whatever you might feel or whatever's expected from you or whatever you might be feeling, whatever you might continue to feel, everything and every emotion that you're feeling is valid. Every feeling is valid. And I just want to say that just to start, because I think that a lot of times it can be lost in translation, and a lot of times it also can be expected for you to feel a certain way during these months. So that's just a little bit. I also want to say that Sexual Assault Awareness Month is a lot more than just statistics. It's a lot about survivors and their stories and creating a culture where sexual violence is not tolerated. It's about standing up for all of it and standing up for survivors that cannot speak up yet or who have and haven't gotten justice. Um, I also think of it as a month to educate ourselves and have hard conversations, but also support organizations who are doing this work. And again, in my scenario, that's Corner House. But there's also so many other ways in doing that. Obviously, today I'm going to be highlighting Corner House a little bit and all of their efforts. They do a lot of work for children and families going through the process of forensic interviewing and trauma response and therapy. And there are endless impacts that they have on both me and my family, but also the communities that they support. So if you're interested in learning more, which I highly recommend, again, go visit their website and definitely educate yourselves a little bit if you're feeling interested today. Anyways, I was actually going through my Snapchat memories the other day. You know how you get like those 1 year ago todays? And I got a flashback from this book. And it was a Colleen Hoover book, which might be contradicting. Not quite sure. There are a lot of mixed emotions on her. However, I came across this book, and in this book were a lot of highlighted pictures, like on my Snap memories of this book being highlighted and written, and a lot of sentences that really spoke out to me. And one thing I wanna, like, just say is that there are a lot of statistics that can be highlighted during this month, and that's not what this month is all about. Like, these numbers can be difficult to hear, but they remind us why awareness is so important and why action is so crucial. Um, some that I have written down here are that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. Most assaults are committed by someone their survivor knows, and awareness and education reduce stigma and encourage reporting. That last bullet point is really what I'm just trying to do today, but the one I really want to focus on right now is that most assaults are committed by someone their survivor knows. For me, it was my grandfather. For this storyline in this book, it was their father. And I'm just going to recite this in case maybe this is helpful to hear to somebody else. But in the text where I wrote on top of it, I said, I think if someone said these words to me about my grandpa, I'd start sobbing uncontrollably and never stop. So take this as you will, whether you're a survivor or you're a supporter or just somebody listening along. Words like these can mean a lot to survivors. And so remembering that what you say, how you listen, how you respond to information from survivors can be really important and can mean a lot to people. This is what I highlighted. Okay. Um, it says, but I want you to know that what your father physically did to you isn't what hurt you as a little girl. It's what he did to your faith in him that broke your heart. You suffered through one of the worst things a child can go through at the hands of your hero, the person you idolized. And I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. And that kinda brings me into the journal entry that I wrote the other day of if I could tell my younger self one thing, what would it be? And I wrote, "What happened to you is not your fault. You are loved more than you know, and there are people that will believe you, hear you, and see you." I think that comes off really heavy. I think there's a lot of things that can be interpreted out of this information, but one thing for me that I just wanted to highlight is supporting survivors can be very difficult. It can fluctuate, obviously, from person to person, from experience to experience. For me personally, these words of "it's not your fault" were really, really hard for me to figure out. To this day, I still struggle with trying to accept that and actually get it in my head that, no, what happened to you is not your fault. And so reading books like this and reading passages and hearing things that people will say to me really, really help because those 3 words of "it's not your fault" I've had to repeat to myself so many times. And even those 3 words can mean so, so, so much to somebody else in whatever scenario. But that's one for me that really stood out to me. Another one that I have highlighted is it says, "To know that those things were done to me at the hands of the only adult I had in my life. It's no wonder I've blocked everything out." This kinda gets into my next part of my journal entry again that one thing I wish others understood about experiences like mine is that it is such a large part of our lives in a variety of ways. And my feelings, my trauma, my emotions, they all fluctuate nearly every day, and that's okay. Essentially, anybody going through anything traumatic in life, it fluctuates and it is a roller coaster and it truly, truly is never linear. Healing, you'll often hear that healing is not linear. And that's especially true in I think most sexual assault scenarios and experiences and stories. I think throughout my story, like, it's definitely gotten better, but there are days when I feel like I've gone back to square one, and I think that it's really hard because there are days when I wish I wasn't there, when I feel like I've fallen and set back so, so far, even though really it's just part of the process, and again, whether you're a supporter or a survivor or an ally or someone whoever you are listening to this, know that that's okay. Know that even just in life, if you feel like you've stepped back a few steps, even when you're doing really well, that's okay. Knowing that that's okay and knowing that is completely valid is super, super crucial, I think, to anybody's healing process. And honestly, just remembering that and trying to be conscious of it in your day to day can be super helpful. The other thing I want to highlight about April is for me, it's a very big personal reflection month. I have a lot of feelings that can arise, and obviously, like I said, moments that can be triggering and whatever. And one of the things, again, that I've been journaling about and just anticipating to think about, as this month begins is that the ways in which sexual violence impacts our lives and communities. I think as a survivor, I'm often less conscious of how it's affected me, and I want to block that part out more than I want to see how it's affected others. I, growing up, didn't speak about my story or speak up about it for months and months and months, well, years and years and years, because I was really, really worried and self conscious about how others around me and my community and my people and my family would react to it, how it would hurt them or how it would impact their lives. And as much as I knew that it was impacting mine, I couldn't bring myself to speak about it until again, till I was 14. And with that, I've really realized that there are a lot of people out there who have gone through a lot. Every single human being has been through something difficult in their life. Maybe it's just a difficult day. Every single person, I guarantee you, in the world has struggled in some way, shape, or form. And in my head, I've not tried to diminish my story in the way of relating it to others, but thought about it in a new way that if somebody else were experiencing what I was experiencing, how would I react? How would I want them to react? And it's taken a lot of self trust and trust in my peers and self love to remember that there are people around me that do love me and that I had to lean on heavily to support me in the way that I needed. And thankfully for me and luckily for me, I got a very, very positive response. However, that's not the case for a lot of people. I would say lean on that. Lean on your people as much as you can especially when things get hard. But know that there are other people and a lot of other survivors that don't have that support system. Again, this is where that piece of Corner House's mission and other organizations like Corner House come in, where their efforts mean the world to me, and I will never stop supporting them for moments like mine, where they really stepped in and helped me and my family navigate through my experience, through my story. And the biggest word that I want to take away, or the biggest word that I think about when I think about this, is empathy. That's kind of the word that I've been more or less name dropping, if you will, throughout this entire episode so far. And that's the one thing that I feel like if you're listening to this, you should take away the most is just be a little bit more empathetic. Be a little bit more understanding, be a little bit more supportive. Just one step, just one more word, just one more hug, whatever it might be. Work on that empathy because as a survivor, as an advocate, that's the one thing, that's the one trait that I look for in all of my friends, all of my family members is empathy. It's not pity, it's not sympathy, it's empathy. And there is a difference, and that's a whole nother episode that I will be getting into because I love the word empathy and I love it and its meaning and its differences from any other word so, so much. Probably will get it tattooed on me at some point. However, that is my word for this episode that I would like you to take away. Anyways, wrapping up. If you're wondering what we can be doing during Sexual Assault Awareness Month and beyond, awareness is only the first step. Action also matters. That's what I want you guys to know. Here are some bullet points that I have penciled out. Just food for thought. Educate yourselves and others about consent and sexual violence. I know hopefully you've learned all about consent in schools, but a lot of people don't listen. And so continuing to educate kids, especially as they're growing up and going through a lot of developmental stages, just remembering that is super, super important. Nope. Support local organizations and national nonprofits. There's Corner House, there's also RAINN, RAIN. Some investigating, do some research, support them in whatever way you can. There's a lot of resources on my page and again, especially on Corner Houses. The next one, obviously, super, super passionate about attend events. These can be really, really fun. When I first went to Corner Houses gala, I was kind of nervous. I was like, wow, like, what is this going to be? How is it going to play out? Like, what am I going to? What am I, who am I supporting? Is it going to be super sad? Like, I don't want to relive my trauma at this event. At this point, I was in a very different stage of my healing journey, of course. But I think what really got me at their event was that it was all real. There wasn't a fake thing about being there. There wasn't a single thing that wasn't thought out. There wasn't a single design choice. There wasn't a single moment in which I didn't feel like they were there to support me as a victim and a survivor, but to support everybody else in the room who was simply there to support them. And that's what I love about Corner House and their events and their awareness initiatives. And again, I'm talking a lot about Corner House, but there are so many organizations and nonprofits out there that also have events, probably within the nearest 20 miles of you, that I urge you to do some research and investigate and maybe attend if you're feeling generous. Next, practice being an active bystander and ally. Normalize conversations about sexual assault to reduce stigma. This is a huge one. I think growing up and even just as a child, there is a lot of stigma around it. There's a lot of stigma around, well, that's too much of a heavy topic. That's too heavy. That's this, that's that. But at this point in life and in the climate of the world, there's not much that kids growing up right now haven't seen, haven't been through. And I think the more we normalize conversations about sexual assault, the more we reduce that stigma. The more people are educated, the more we're open about it, the more likely it is for survivors to speak up. Lastly, I just want to say that Sexual Assault Awareness Month is a reminder that change starts with awareness and continues with action. Whether it's educating ourselves, supporting survivors, or speaking up, every single one of those efforts counts. So, thank you for being here. And my last little message to anybody listening to this is be kind, be empathetic, and know that you're not alone. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week. Bye.